Hey, welcome into a special edition of, I guess, a virtual roundtable, guys. We're not really at a table, but we're going to do this virtually from our various locations throughout Florida and Georgia. And, accompanying this, we do have a roundtable. We talked about 5 different questions that the three of us and all addressed. We're not going to give away the farm here, but we're going to talk about a couple of them here. You want to read the rest, go to Warchant, and that code is Warchant30. If you want to get 30 free trial, it's risk-free. Try it for 30 days. You can bug out if you don't like it, but you will. Trust me, you will. So, guys, I'm joined by managing editor Ira Schoffel to my right, my left, I don't know. But he's over there next to me. And then, of course, below me, no denigration on you, but Corey Clark, senior writer for Warchant.com, and also co-host of the ultra-popular Wake Up Warchant, which you can hear every day, every morning on Warchant.com. Subscribe at all your various channels and, of course, on YouTube as well. Well, guys, let's get into this a little bit on the roundtable. And of course, the focus of the roundtable was to talk about the defense, which has not been exactly stellar through the first 6 games. And I guess you see the criticism on social media, you see it on the Warchant message boards, and it's all about, talking about, is it fair to judge Adam Fuller and potentially even his job status at this point, as bad as this team has been? Let me start with you, Ira. How much of that criticism is fair, and how much is, come on, guys, it's 6 games in, new staff, give them a break?
I think if you had asked me before the season, I would have felt like 6 games isn't really all that fair because he did inherit a really bad defense. This was a defense that has struggled for several years now, but was really, really bad last year. And so I wouldn't have come into the season thinking that, but it's been so bad. I mean, it's been off the charts bad. I mean, it's one of the worst defenses in the country, and it's a defense that has it's getting worse week by week if you go by total yardage. And then if you look at who the teams are playing against, the teams are playing against are getting more yardage, in some cases points, against Florida State than they are against, their averages against everybody else. So they just don't do anything well. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately, if you're getting paid $800,000, I think it's fair to criticize a guy when your defense is this bad.
Corey, I gotta toss it to you now. I guess not only is it fair, and then what? I mean, you're just looking at that schedule there. Let's just throw out Clemson because we know that's going to be a boat race beating. But other than that one, the other 4 games, how much of that is important to judge Adam Fuller and this defense going forward?
Well, yeah, it's very important. Going back to the original question, absolutely, it's fair to judge through 6 games. Look, if you go to a restaurant and you get queasy a couple times you eat there, and the 6th time you eat there, you vomit everywhere. Well, you judge that chef. What we're seeing, what we're seeing so far through 6 games is just, it's not even bad defense. It's indescribably bad because it's not like you're making these teams work. It's ABC football, and guys are running wide open. So something's lost there. So moving forward, yes, if you have a bye week here. So hopefully you can figure out whatever it is you needed to figure out. Now, you hate to have to figure it out 6 weeks into a season, but if they come out and play Pitt and who else, NC State, Duke, Virginia, none of these teams are incredible offensively. If you can hold them to somewhere in the 20s, maybe 400 yards instead of 600 yards, if you can see noticeable improvement, then yeah, I think, okay, you can see that he got his bearings. They started to figure some things out. It is a weird year. They made some adjustments. But if Duke looks a lot like Louisville did, then, man, yes, it's completely fair to judge and say this guy isn't doing the job here. And the question will be, if they still look against Duke and Virginia like they did against Louisville, now maybe Duke and Virginia don't have the Hawkins and Atwell, but if they're still moving up and down the field like everybody does against Florida State, then yeah, I think you're well within your rights if you're Mike Norvell or if you're David Coburn to say, look, a change needs to be made because this can't cut it. The offense has improved in a year. The offense had to have a Zoom off season, and the offense didn't have a spring either, and they're rushing the ball better than they have in a long time. They've made some strides. The defense looks completely and utterly lost.
And we thought the defense was going to have to carry the offense, and it's been quite the opposite there. The way I look at this thing, and we're kind of sort of halfway in, a little past halfway. I look at the first half, it's a midterm. It's like a class. It's a midterm exam, and frankly, they failed it. But you look at those last 5 games, that's the final exam for this defensive staff. And you failed the midterm, but the final exam counts for half your grade. So you could still pull out a C-, D+, I guess, and that's somewhat of a passing grade on that at the end of the day. So that it's going to be weighted heavily, because I think as every game goes forward, it's more on the coaches and less on the players. The problem has been we're 6 games in. They don't look any better. If anything, they look worse from that first game. There's got to be some accountability on the coaches for that, as far as I'm concerned. And to your point, Corey, on those other than Clemson, every one of those other 4 teams ranks basically in the bottom half in terms of total offense. So you're not getting – I get it. Louisville had some Tutu Atwell. They had a lot of just explosive players. They didn't show it a lot, but these are guys that can do – Notre Dame's got a lot of great offensive players. North Carolina does. Miami does. These teams don't. So if you're giving up 500 points a game, high 30s, 40 points a game consistently to those teams, I think you have to make a change.
If we're going to carry on your school year analogy, is the drop ad line still available? Can we still try to?
We're past that.
Too late for that, my man.
Yeah,
too late for that.
We're locked into this class.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's and that that is at the end of the day, you start if you want to find reasons to give Adam Fuller or his staff a little bit of leeway, and I definitely wanted to the first 4 or 5 games, because these defensive players have struggled under Harlan Barnett. Now they've struggled under Adam Fuller. Some of these guys struggled under Charles Kelly. I mean, there's a few holdovers from that regime as well. But it's hard to believe you missed on that many guys. And then to Corey's point, you can't have guys running wide open. You can miss tackles. You can have guys that don't make the play on the ball. There are certain things you can have and say, okay, we got to get better at these positions. But when you have what you had in the Louisville game, where guys are running free or running wide open, then it's harder to stomach.
And how do you explain a game like Wake Forest and Virginia Tech, where Wake Forest started a walk-on at safety, and he had 3 interceptions? Florida State hasn't have a kid he's not supremely more talented. He's a walk-on at Wake, so he's not athletically gifted. Certainly not as much as a guy at a Florida State, but he certainly appeared to be in the right position, and that's part of coaching. If the guys won't get in the right position, get somebody that will, or make it so rudimentary that they have no other they just have to be where they're supposed to be. That's what's so frustrating, is there is a lack of communication or a lack of teaching that's going on from Sunday to Friday, where on Saturday against Louisville, Ira, you said it earlier in the week, it wouldn't have looked worse if they didn't practice. Louisville had 411 possible yards they could have gained in the first half from where they got the ball in the field. They gained 410 of them. Like literally, it did not matter it did not matter that you practiced. You did nothing at all correctly. And again, it's not like Cunningham was fitting it in tight windows, and it's not like Hawkins was making 9 dudes miss in the hole. It was like, oh, there's a guy crashed down on the edge when he shouldn't have. Well, there's a 70-yard touchdown. It's the simple things that are being not done, and it's making it way too easy for these teams to hit home run plays or just any first down plays, 8-yard plays. There's nothing redeeming about what they're doing on that side of the ball. I don't know if I've made that clear. Do you feel like I've gotten my point across, guys?
I don't know. I feel like I'm longing for the days early in the year or under Harlan Barnett where they would just give up 15-yard passes all day.
Yeah.
In the zone and then make a tackle 18 yards down the field.
Yeah, just hope and pray for a mess up at some point. And they kick a field goal on you. Last thing on this, guys, a little bit, and to me, this goes to coaching too. Before we get to the last question, and that isn't part of this knowing your weaknesses. And to me, sometimes it still seems like it's being coached defensively, like you have a great defensive line. Like a lot of times they're depending on those guys to go in and get that great pass rush and get that penetration. And I mean, I don't know how many games you have to see. You don't. I mean, they played maybe a little over a half pretty good against North Carolina, but other than that, it's been a well below average defensive line. And at some point, don't you have to also play to your weaknesses?
Well, I think they've tried different things. In that game, they got burned when they blitzed. When they blitz, they don't really get home. And again, we can go back to earlier this season where I think they were kind of doing that. They were playing softer in coverage and trying to keep things in front of them, playing more zone. Now they've gone to playing so much man, and they're just getting abused. So I don't know. I part of me thinks if you can't, they've tried a ton of different players, they've tried different schemes, they've tried different approaches, and none of it works. That doesn't necessarily mean it's all in the players, but they could be a big part of the problem.
All right, last thing, guys. I want to get to this. I'm going to pull it up here, the final schedule here. And we're working out the bye week right now. Then you got a home game against Pitt, obviously at NC State, Clemson, home against Virginia, and you wrap it up at Duke to end the regular season. I guess this year you'll have a bowl game even with a losing record. So, but let's look at those last 5 games. We're just going to throw out Clemson. We know that's going to be a loss. I guess, what is, and this is one of the questions, what is kind of a realistic best case scenario, and what is kind of the realistic scenario? And let's start with you, Corey, this time. How do you think those last 5 games are going to play out?
I mean, I think realistically, I would say 2 and look, Clemson doesn't even count. So you're talking about the other 4 games. So I think realistically with those other 4 games, it's 2 and 2. This defense is so bad that I can't trust. Each game you go into, you're going to have the worst defense apparently out of those 4 games. And it's just hard to think that with the worst defense, you're going to win 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 4 of them. No matter what the offense looks like, your defense is going to have to make stops and make plays. They haven't, they can't, they won't. We'll see. Maybe things got fixed. But until I see that, I think 2 and 2 is probably realistic. None of those teams are good. They can beat all of them. I think best case, you get to 5 wins. But I think realistically, you're looking at a 4 and 7 type finish, unless they shock the world and beat Clemson. And if they do that, I don't even know what we could do. Like what could be like standing on our heads. I don't know what we could do to make that bet. There's literally nothing. I would risk doing anything because that can't happen.
Or take the entire subscriber base to Warchant out to dinner, because I think before you gave 10, you're going to treat them to dinner.
Apparently,
I think the entire Warchant subscriber base, Corey, will treat you to dinner.
What would happen in a COVID world if the fans tried to storm the field? Like, what would they just start shooting people?
I think they just get sniped. Yeah, I think they just get sniped one after one. Yeah, I don't know what you would do. Yeah, that's it. I'll take every subscriber to Warchant. I'll send them I'll send them a free autographed copy of a 8x10 of me.
There you go.
That's a good.
I'll do it. If Florida State beats Clemson, I promise I'm doing it. We have all your email addresses.
Ira, same question. What do you think here? Kind of realistically, and then I guess if things kind of play out the way they want them to play out, what do you see how that happening?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think best case scenario, they could win all 4 of those games because they're again, none of those teams are great. And I think Florida State's offense will, if Jordan Travis is healthy, now that's a big part. That's a big caveat to all this. If he can get back to healthy and if he can play the way he was playing in those 3 earlier games, then I think they can beat all 4 of those teams. What I would expect is probably more likely win the home games. I think they've got a much better chance to be. I don't know if Pittsburgh, I know this defense is bad, but I would not expect Pittsburgh to come in here and score 40 points. And I think this offense with Jordan Travis, if he's healthy, can score 35 or 40 points. So I give Florida State the edge there. And then home against Virginia, same thing. The problem is going on the road, the offense is not going to play as well as it does at home, and the defense is going to be what it's been. So you'd love to be in a situation where if you could win 2 of those first 3, again, excluding Clemson, and then have a chance to beat Duke to get to 6 wins, maybe there's a way that they would just get so much confidence from how they've been playing. They can go win that game because Duke's not any good either. But it's hard to predict that they're going to win any games on the road this season. So like Corey, I would say 2 and 2 probably in these last 4.
And I really think that winning 3 out of those 4 would be so huge because look, it puts you 1 game from 500. You go win the Gasparilla Bowl wherever you're going to end up. I mean, you got a lot of momentum. You won 4. You win 4 games down the stretch. You get to 500. There's positive momentum. It helps in recruiting. It helps everywhere else. I do think, and I'm a little bit again. I'm gonna couch this by saying, Jordan Travis stays healthy, returns healthy, stays healthy. Tamarian Terry's out there healthy. Just a modicum of improvement from the defense. Not much, just a little bit. I think they can win 3 out of those 4 other games. And I think, again, that's a realistic scenario for this thing to play pretty well for Mike Norvell and the staff. But, again, all those things happening, we'll see. So probably you're right. Probably a 2 and 2 over those 4 games is pretty realistic.
One thing I would say this, and if Jordan – and I look, I don't think Chuba Purdy looked bad in his debut. In fact, he looked calmer than what we saw from Tate Rodemaker earlier this season. And he's obviously got a good arm. If Jordan can't go, if Jordan's not available or is nowhere near the way he was before physically, then I don't even think you concern yourself with wins or losses these last 4 or 5 games. It's all about preparing for 2021. You can't expect much from him with all of these other issues on this team right now.
And get one of those receivers to maybe catch the ball. I think that would help Chubb out too as he moves forward in his progression.
And you guys touched on two of the other questions. You're going to have to go to Warchant to read those. One of those, what do we do about all the drop passes that happened in the last game? We discussed that. And then also, what is the quarterback situation? We know Jordan Travis is the starter, but who is the backup at this point? We discussed that as well. But got to go to Warchant to read that, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. And if you do, below, make sure you subscribe. Hit the little bell so you'll get alerted when videos like this come. All of our live shows, and Corey has the live Tuesday shows with Aslan. Any thought of moving that to Thursday? I know you guys threw that around a little bit. Corey's going to stick that thing on Thursday next week or Tuesday?
I think we'll stay with Tuesday. That seems to go well. It gets the people out to spend their money. We love it. We love it. We love all the subscriptions.
Also, one more thing. If you're jonesing for some Aslan, he's not in this video, but he's going to try to get us his answers for the printed roundtable that we're going to have on the website. He's at a wedding this weekend, so we'll see when we get that, but hopefully we're going to get that in. We couldn't have him for the video, but we will have him likely in the written part of the content as well. All those Aslan fans out there, calm down. You're going to get your Aslan.
He's having a fun. I'm sure he's having a great time right now down in Key West. Who knows what he's doing? But
did you say fans plural?
Fans with his
Corey, he's got two or three. Come on,
I know he does.
Come on, be nice.
Love you, Aslan.
All right, guys. Well, that does it for another session of the Roundtable. Check it more out at warchant.com. I was saying Aslan. Ira and Corey, thanks for all your great work. We'll talk to you soon.